Right before we were recording, and I won't spoil any details here, but Dave did warn me not to get too dark or war crime me with our ad read.
War crimey
So
was his word.
I'm thinking that's probably the not common for sponsorships to have to speculate, specify that you shouldn't do that.
Hey, you didn't tell me not to mention war crimes.
Right. Today our guest is going to be Leslie Watts, and you'll see when she gets on. I'm calling this gutsy writing. She had vulnerable. It was something that was a good descriptive title, but I was just like too many syllables, and I didn't think people would get it, so I just called it gutsy writing. But she has a really good story about just basically being gutsy. Like what do you do when you're sort of nervous about publishing and stuff. But we'll save that. We'll let Leslie tell that story. So I know that Sean has already called dibs on a something cool, but I want to give my something cool before it, because if he does his first, then my something cool isn't. It's like what. Why did you bother mentioning it? So I get to go first. And
so do you have something marginal? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. I'm saying that. Well, you'll see the minute I say it. So
all right, go.
My something cool is this is officially the first podcast that we're recording that I can mention this, even though it's been done for a while. But the Story Shop Kickstarter did officially fund. We will officially be building the Story Shop app. And that's really cool. There were times during this campaign that I wondered if it was going to fund, just because the way that Kickstarter works is you have a lot of action at the beginning, you have a lot of action at the end, and I think we were something like $20,000 short with like 5 days left, and it did fully fund, and so we have the money, because this was one of those things, we said this during the lead up, that we're hiring developers. Like we can't build the app without the money. It's not like just how much money can we make. It's like we don't have the money to hire the developers. So we officially do now. We are officially going to make Story Shop. Sean and I had a meeting with our financial guy Archer and Seth, of course, yesterday. I think it was yesterday, to talk about some of the logistics of that. So that's underway, and that's very exciting.
Yeah, it is pretty exciting because it was a brain fart, and like Johnny said, with 5 days to go in the campaign, like there was a chance that it wasn't going to be built. And it's funny because before the campaign started, we were kind of resigned to that. We all collectively said that this is in large part a market test, and if the market can't support the idea, then that's fine. But we'll know that ahead of time, and we're not going to build something because even with the $80,000 minus fees that we did generate through Kickstarter, that's not enough. Like we have to build this out, and that's enough to get a minimum viable product, in April. But beyond that,
just to interrupt there, it's enough to get. That's what we promised. Like I don't want anyone thinking like, wait a minute, you wanted this much and it's not enough, so we're going to get less. Like that was always the intention. It's enough for what we were going to deliver, and then we're going to iterate forward as it's been around longer.
Right, and as we iterate forward, that's going to take our time and our money and our resources, and so it's kind of a big deal, and we needed to really make sure that it was worth it. And we needed that basic. Not just the money to build the basic product, but we needed kind of justification. We needed to know that we needed a mandate. We needed a rah. We want this as a community, and so it was really exciting to get that. But yeah, 5 days ahead of time, it looked like we might not. And as much as we had said before the campaign started, we're going to have to be okay with that. If it doesn't fund, that means it's not time to build this app. But once we
Which
were 5 days away,
would have kind of sucked. We said we were okay with it, but that would have sucked.
Right, exactly. So 5
we were
days
so emotionally vested by that point.
Yeah, and that's why we hate crowdfunding. Like it's just such a long, painful month. But it was very exciting, and again, thank you so much to everyone who showed up, because wow, like we're gonna build an app, and we could not have done this on our own, at least not for a few years. So I'm really excited about Story Shop, and my something cool. I have a real something cool, but the something cool that Johnny was alluding to is Seth Atwood, who is our I hate saying he's our developer because he's really not. He's our partner. His studio Strangewind is building the app. There are developers because we can't build an app, right? but there he got a tattoo. He got a full forearm length, full color Story Shop tattoo of the Story Shop logo, and like I don't even know if that's our official logo yet. So I guess now it has to be. Right? I think now.
No, I think it was always the official logo in my head.
That's our logo. So just
I
awesome.
wish we had knew that before we did the logo. We would have come up with something like that. He wouldn't want on him.
Right. Well, we would have done
peeing
the
on Hobbs, maybe.
we would have been done the equivalent of R.C. Bray reading "I Like Dick" in in the Beam, right? Just makes that do this, but
Incorporate a swastika into it somehow.
Wow, Dave goes straight for him.
Save that for the ad read.
So anyway, I just think it's really cool to have that kind of like love and commitment from Seth. So high five on Story Shop. And then just quickly, I saw Steve Jobs, the movie, this week. And
I thought you were going to say you actually saw him.
On an ayahuasca trip, man.
Yeah, we were high-fiving.
Steve Jobs is the Holy Trinity.
But it's very, very good, and it's way different than I expected it to be, which is why I'm mentioning it.
Probably because it's all lies.
No, the narrative is great. I read the Steve Jobs Walter Isaacson biography earlier this year, and you know, so nothing in it surprised me, but I love that they didn't make him a jolly fellow. Like, he's a dick, and it's very clear what a dick he is. When I was finished with the biography, I thought, you know, I don't have any less respect for him. I actually have more respect for him, what he did, who he was, what he accomplished, but I actually like him less as a person. And the movie is that version of the man. You don't like him very much. And I thought the movie did really two interesting things. It wasn't a typical biopic that kind of, you know, took you through a voyage of his life, starting from his adoption, you know, to his death of cancer. It wasn't that movie at all. It only had 3 really, really, really long scenes. And they were before the product launches of 3 different times. One the Mac, one his next thing, and one when he came back with the iMac, and all the drama that happened before each product launch. No iPhone, no death of cancer, nothing. Like, and I've been trying to think since I saw it, and I don't think I've ever seen a movie with more dialogue. It's almost like a stage play. Like, it's constant people talking, and the dialogue is fantastic. The performances are fantastic. And the fact that they hung it on the 3 product launches and Steve's relationship with his daughter Lisa, I thought were just really great script choices, and I just highly recommend it for people who like Apple or language, you know.
I thought the curb stomp scene was very brave of them.
The what scene?
The curb job?
The curb stomp. You don't know what curb stomp is?
I always thought that was called a curb job.
Have you not seen American History X?
He's not. Sean's not street.
Edward Norton stomps the guy's head.
Yeah, no, I get it.
It was a very bad joke, and you all ruined it by not being on the same page as me, you fucker.
Well, we're very sorry. It's really your fault, but I'm sorry.
I guess we should prepare ahead of time and talk about stuff I might mention on a whim.
You have something cool?
Yeah, I was watching the Jessica Jones series on Netflix. It's very good.
Oh, I'm hyped on that.
It's very good, and it's I'm surprised. I mean, it really is. It's about the violation of a woman by a man. Really, it's a very long story about a rape on emotional and physical levels, and it's a very brave,
like a feel-good party, and
it's a brave choice. It's very dramatic, and I'm surprised more trolls aren't getting pissed about it, because you just know the way they are. It's so well done. It's really good.
How does it compare to Daredevil?
It's different, and it's just as good, or if not better. I mean, emotionally, it really puts you in a position of how the lead character, and there's other women involved too. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically it really puts you in the mindset of somebody just utterly destroying your life and just taking over everything and destroying you, and how to rebuild yourself after that. The whole series is like, it has like little stories within it, but mostly it's one overarching thing, and it's very well done, just really well. I'm delightfully surprised at how good it is.
Yeah, it's high on my list. I think it may be what I watch right after Boardwalk.
Oh, did you see season 2 cliffhanger?
I did, and just to catch the listeners up here, Dave was there. I said I'm gonna watch the season 2 finale tonight, and he said you got to text me your reaction as soon as you were done.
I think one of my Christmas presents to my wife is to not watch the shows that you watch with your wife.
And I said, okay, well, I'm gonna do that, and I told him I would, but I didn't because I was in mid conversation with Cindy, and then we were going
mid coitus.
Yeah, and I'm not gonna stop to text Dave. It's just not gonna happen. So I didn't. But we can talk after the show about it. But yeah, wow.
Was your wife like, what the hell?
No, and I actually thought it was going to be something worse because of your build-up.
Because Dave really sets expectations.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Margaret actually.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But no. I mean, it was dark, but it didn't.
Oh, I thought
it was dark, but it wasn't Dave dark.
It actually was Dave Dark.
Yeah, it was.
But I was prepared, and I prepared Cindy too. I'm like, just so you know. Dave thought this was dark. So,
Dave thought this was the best episode ever, so we should probably call a crisis hotline when we're done.
Something like that.
So one thing I wanted to mention for sure is that we've been talking about the Smarter Artist Summit that we're going to hold. That's the live event. There's going to be somewhere between 150 and 200 people there, 150 to 200 people. Dave will be in a Pope Mobile because there's so many people around, and that's
what a wall built around him.
And a moat.
His contract.
That's our conference, and we're holding that at the last 2 days of March of next year. So I think this goes out before Christmas, this episode, and so that gives you some time if you wanted to attend, and it's okay, so smarterartistsummit.com. We're ready to unveil that. It's very the site itself. We just Danny Cooper tossed it up for us. Kudos to Danny. So it's not finished, but you can get your ticket. We have several confirmed speakers that I can mention now. Joanna Penn is speaking on the future of publishing. Our good friend J.A. Huss, Julie Huss, who will actually be on the show next week on SBP. The next live show, not sure how these shake out, on how to make readers crave everything you write before you write it. Nick Stevenson's going to be there, how to get from 100 readers to 1,000, maximize every one. And Andre Chaperone of Autoresponder Madness fame, which Sean and I say is our song on email marketing and autoresponders for authors. And
it's actually, that's a big get. Can I just interrupt there for a moment? Because yeah, Andre is, I don't know, I've been super, super into Andre forever. I think that the way he organizes his autoresponder campaigns is just really customer-centric, and it's all about, good writing and bonding with your customer, and I love it. And I loved it back before I was writing fiction. And I was just really, I reached out to him and was hoping to get him to speak. And he said that he can't because he's just really he's an introvert and he gets sick, going to speak, and he's done it 2 times before and both were disasters. And I reached out to him and said, hey, this is more casual than that. We're having it in an artist loft, and it's we'll be with you on stage. You don't have to go it alone. And so he said, I love what you guys are doing and I want to support you. So yes, I'm going to do it. He actually said, I'm going to grow some cojones and do it. So the fact that we're getting Andre is just really exciting to me.
Kind of an exclusive get, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be really, really cool, because I think that, learning about email marketing and autoresponders specifically is one of the best skills an author can have, and I think that he's the best teacher in the world for it.
Also, Julia Kent, who we've had on the show, she's a best-selling romance author, is going to speak. I haven't finalized a topic for her yet, and just recently, Mark Lefebvre of Kobo said that he will be speaking as well. We couldn't confirm that until just recently, and that's great. And then we may or may not have some bonus speakers that we can't announce yet. So anyway, I won't give you all the details on that. The website is smarterartistsummit.com. That's artist is singular, smarterartistsummit.com. and it's March 30th and 31st of 2016 in Austin, Texas. And like I said, if you're live, like if you're watching live and you go there, the site is a little incomplete, but it will work. It'll ring you up, but like some of the images aren't in, some of the details. It should give you what you need. It's currently PayPal only. Again, if you're listening on the audio feed, this stuff will be fixed. You'll be able to, you won't have to use PayPal or all that. But that's it. Oh, and one more thing I should mention: if you are live and you wanted to get 2 tickets, this is actually a little glitchy, and we'll have this fixed again for those of you who are on the feed. But if you're live, if you add a ticket and you want to add another, you got to click the View Cart button, and then you can change the quantity of tickets. So that's it about the summit. Let me get to adding Leslie, but before we do that, I was checking off on my list here, and I need to do some Christmas shopping later, and let me tell you, it's a real bitch getting a Christmas gift for an artist, for an author, and I just wanted to see if either of you, preferably Dave, has any suggestions for what we would do.
Do I have any spontaneous ideas for a Christmas gift for an artist, specifically a writer, perhaps a writer?
Right, and just say what could you get a writer without going, into any of the things that we shouldn't talk about and that you specifically told me at the beginning. What is it that you want?
No World War II sort of items.
Right. What do you get somebody who's just, that they're really, you're just like, oh, I'm so disgusted with your online presence, you're just screwing everything up. What do you get that person?
Well, I would suggest you get them a book cover from 99designs.com/
Not just any book cover. I just want to clarify that. Don't go into a bookstore, rip off a cover, and give it to them, because that's not what we're talking about.
That'll just make them cry, because they'll see how inferior their own cover is. Right. And really, when you talk about buying for an artist, really we're talking about buying yourself a gift, because you are the most important person in your life, I imagine, right? Everybody is the most important.
I'm the most important person in my life. I mean, that's my motto.
As writers, we're all egotistical monsters, right. And you buy gifts for everybody else in your family. You take care of the kids, your wife, or your husband. You buy stuff for the people you love, but a lot of times we don't buy ourselves a gift, and you really owe it to yourself to get yourself a very good book cover, and that's where the folks at 99 Designs come in. 99designs.com/SPP come in, because they have teams of designers waiting to. They're like Santa's elves, but they're designers, and they're waiting.
They do wear those hats. I went to their headquarters.
During Christmas season, they make designers all wear hats, and the hats help with the creativity, I find.
Right. Is that true?
Yes.
No. We say all these crazy weird things go off script to say. Are they true? No. But what is true is 99designs.com/SPP will create an awesome book cover for you. You want to.
The link actually won't. I just want to clarify. It's actually the 99 Designs people that will do it, just in case.
Not
you get confused.
Okay. If you. Fuck you.
Because some people just get really confused,
Yeah. You want a great book cover. That's the bottom line. You want it. You owe it to yourself as a writer to have a great book cover. And
all right. Well, the person that I'm buying for really has a fear of losing everything.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about 99 Designs. You have absolutely nothing to lose. If in that first round and stuff, if you find, hey, what the hell? We can't find a good book cover.
Right.
It's not going to happen, though, because every time we've ever done it, we've had more book covers than we knew what to do with. There were just too many good ones to choose from. And that's a beautiful thing about 99 Designs. They are going to give you the perfect holiday gift for yourself or the artist, writer in your life. Go there now.
So start your custom design today. Today. No other day. No later. Right?
No, wait. Don't wait.
There's Christmas shipping to think about. At 99designs.com/SPP, and use that link. You get the free Power Pack upgrade. Not gift wrappable, but you can make a certificate. Power Pack upgrade. Separate box. That way you get 2 for 1 if you use that link. So there you go. 99designs.com/SPP. All right, I see Leslie has joined us, but Leslie, we're just seeing your avatar. We can neither see nor hear you, although it is a charming avatar of you and your family. I assume, unless you stole those people.
He may have. It may be a collage of all the people who come.
No, she's gone. She didn't like
I'm busted.
I told you not to make the ad read so dark.
She just didn't want to deal with us, and I frankly can't blame her.
Do you think that if 99 Designs, like if somebody asked them about a company question, they say, okay, so who does the darkest ad reads for you guys? Do you think it would be us?
Yeah, I don't think
anybody else.
Yeah.
By the way, I'd like to apologize to anybody. Like, if we accidentally offend people because we're always saying horrible things, and then Hitler does come back. Not that we specifically didn't mention him, but I'm just saying. All right.
Yes, because Hitler could come back. I saw like a Jurassic Park.
Thinking about a comeback tour. A lot of people doing that these days.
Oh my God, Jurassic Hitler or
yeah, Jurassic Hitler Park.
Yeah.
Hitler Park could be pretty good.
That guy wouldn't get away with that today, though. Like, he'd have to hide. He'd have to shave that little stupid little mustache because there'd be. Well, I know what you did last summer, Hitler.
Yeah, I'm thinking if Hitler came back, he wouldn't be wearing the mustache, though.
All right. Well, that's true. Then it'd be hard to find him. There she is.
Would we even recognize Hitler without the mustache and hair?
I don't know. Let's do a segue away from the Hitler discussion and towards our guest Leslie Watts. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Leslie.
Hello. Hi.
Oh, there she is. We can see you now. Leslie has the nicest smile.
Oh, thanks.
And
Thanks,
a little studio
to
concocted out of. I like your framing there too.
It's a mess back there. I
know.
gotta tell you, I didn't want to share that.
It looks like you're in a dojo. Are you
what I
practicing
thought.
your karate?
I was meditating before this started because I
Because
I don't want to
Dave.
freak out or do anything embarrassing or obnoxious or.
Well, we do that every
We
week.
do that every week.
That's our brand.
Well, so on the topic of freaking out, that's actually probably a good a good transition because the topic. I mean, I just called it gutsy writing. You call it being vulnerable. Do you want to sort of tell the origin story of what we're going to talk about today?
Sure. So I attended the this super duper mastermind group, and I was told that I could mention that it was the Stone Table.
You can mention that.
And I was in a room with all these people who've done all these amazing things, and I felt really intimidated and, I'm not really sure if I belong here. And I went ahead and, took the opportunity to talk about what was really bothering me, which I think is, from now on I will always do. And because
Can I just frame this real quick?
It was me that was bothering her.
Well, she actually wasn't going to come until she found out that you weren't, and so
Okay,
it
makes
all worked
sense.
out. We had something called hot seats, which
thank you.
in every mastermind that I've been a part of, this is one of my favorite things. And the hot seats are really they're an amazing opportunity to learn because it's not just about what is going wrong in your business. The idea of a hot seat is you come to the group and you say, okay, this is my pain point. This is the thing that's either stopping me personally or professionally, and I need help figuring it out. And then you've got the whole room there, and in a mastermind, that room is filled with smart people, right? So you've got all this brain power that's kind of networked into fixing your problem. And it's really just exciting. And, for me, like, I love learning new things and I love seeing problems get solved. So it doesn't matter if I'm only one of those problems throughout the 2 days. Like, I want to hear everybody else's problem too, because there are things there that apply to you later. And it's just, I don't know, I find so much value in those hot seats. So when we did our own mastermind, I was really excited about these hot seats. And they are a time, and Leslie will go deep into this, where to get the most out of your hot seat, you really have to be vulnerable. And you really have to be willing to expose yourself, and not in the way Dave would, but
Hey, that was a long time ago, and the police record has been cleared. Okay.
But do you want to do the 80 hours of community service again?
No, not again, because I had to be nice to people for 80 hours, and that was hard.
The more you put out there, the more you get. So if you're honest and you're vulnerable, and if you're scared, that's kind of the best time to act. So that's what this was. This was a hot seat. That's what Leslie is talking about.
Yes. So my hot seat, and I went into it thinking, I went into the stone table thinking, I'm not sure if I'm going to use my hot seat. I'm just going to kind of listen and observe and soak up all the goodness. And then I just decided, in part because other people in the room were being really vulnerable too, and they were sharing hard stuff as well. And so I just dove in, which is kind of my MO. I come from a kind of narrow background where possibilities aren't, but like there's not a lot of belief in possibilities. And
At Dave's house.
Dave and I might have grown up in the same place. I don't know, but yeah. So I've kind of I've in my own story. I've passed the midpoint where I've decided to start taking action and going after things and asking for things and jumping in. And so I did. And I'm really glad I did, because I talked about the fact that it's really easy for me to do the things that I'm doing for other people, to take care of editing clients, to get my stuff done. Writership is the company that I own with Alyssa Archer, and it's really easy to do things for my kids and for my husband and my friends, and it's hard sometimes to choose me, like in that great episode a few weeks ago. It's hard for me to prioritize myself if there's anything else on my to-do list, and so my novel was just languishing while I was helping other people publish their novels. And that was both painful for me and also felt like this, like that there was a problem with my credibility. I was helping people and they were grateful for it, but I didn't have my own thing, and that was hard. And so I shared that, and
did some asshole make you?
With a big nose.
No. Well, I had some great nudges, I will say that, over the weekend, because I needed it. There was a very sweet person next to me who was like, "Go on, do your hot seat." And
well, it's very easy to back out in that situation, because no one is making you. It's not an obligation at all, but it is an opportunity. You use the right word there, and it's the kind of thing where if you don't do it, it's very easy to not do it in the moment, but then you go home and you regret it, and you say, why didn't I do that? I had all these people there who could have helped me, and I didn't say anything.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times I'm afraid of making an ass of myself, like just, like here today, I'm worried that like the screen's going to fall down or my mic's going to fall over or whatever. And so I'm just kind of like, okay, well, if it does, that's all right, because it's all part of the experience. This feels very meta to me because I am being vulnerable right here and sharing little bits. And anyway, so there was this great suggestion to start a blog and write about my process, because accountability, like to someone else, is something that's really easy for me to do. I follow through. If I make a promise to someone else, I follow through. And so this was a way of publicly posting my progress, so I can't ignore it. And it's this daily reminder that I can't, that, oh, did I work on my novel today? Oh, dang it, I got to do that. So it's moved my novel up in my priority list, and I started a new story, and I'm working on it, and it's fabulous. It's so much fun, and all the writing and hitting publish every day helps me to keep going and makes other areas less painful.
Right, now you're not doing like Fiction Unboxed, right? You're not publicly writing, but the accountability of knowing that you need to report in.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I kind of like that idea maybe for the future, but right now I'm just kind of like, oh, this is what I've struggled with today, or and then on Fridays I post my word count, and this is what I said I would do last week, and this is what I did, and this is what I'm going to do next week. So that's my little logbook on Fridays. And then the rest of the week, I just talk about what's going on with the project or what's going on in my life that's affecting the project and that kind of thing. Like my parents came and visited and created great havoc. Bless their hearts. But yeah, so.
The reason that this is so important is that any writer has to have guts to put their work out there, especially if you're new to it. And just let me tell, I mean, I don't think this broaches any confidentiality you wouldn't want to share, but it was not an initially popular idea with you. Just like you were not like, yay, like let's do this, rah rah, but just doing it anyway. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that people are just who are more naturally bold and more naturally just, putting myself out there. That they, what am I saying? Never mind. Not that. What I want to say is that people the more meek among us, tend to believe that their stories don't matter as much, or I don't know enough, or I don't have what it takes. And I guess part of this, if I can help anyone else who's feeling kind of I don't know how to do this, that if someone else can like say, oh well, Leslie's doing this thing, so I can do it too because she's a mess, man. Look at her.
Has it been harder for you than you expected, or about what you expected, or easier once you get going and it was the starting that was hard?
The starting was hard, and some days are harder than others. Like there was a week when I didn't make my word count goal and I didn't want to say it, but I'm like, if you're not being honest here, then there's no point in doing the project. And so it's just, yeah, I mean, it's been better and worse and all around, not quite what I expected, but really awesome.
I think that Leslie is an important guest for us today because of the three of us on this podcast, Dave is probably the most human among us. Sean and I are probably kind of obnoxious. Like we're and I don't mean like he's human, like we're superhuman. I mean like we're obnoxious and
You're robots.
Yeah, I mean we're Leslie just said, we're like, yeah, we can do this. Like Sean and I are kind of, that's how we are. We're going to put ourselves out there. We don't care. And that's not relatable. We hear that all the time, that like we like Dave because he's not like you assholes. I mean, they say it nicer than that. But Leslie is, I think, a typical, like there are a lot of writers who are more introverted. I would venture that more artists and writers are probably introverts than extroverts, and so we're not typical. And so we want to have a more representative voice.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great. I think it's I think you guys, when you're sharing your stories and you're kind of bold and audacious and you get out there, like that's the seed of possibility, even for people like me. I mean, like I first encountered you guys through Fiction Unboxed. That was the like there was a tweet that came through and I saw it and I was like, what is that? Oh my gosh, and just jumped in with 2 feet and yeah, and I've been following ever since because you do, like, you share and you're out there and I'm like, there's possibility there, and so it's really helpful.
What are you learning about the guts that it takes to get work out there that you think that other people could learn from and apply for themselves?
I'm learning that it doesn't have to be perfect before I put it out there. that I don't have to have it all figured out. And that was, I think I was hung up on that before because, well, if you're going to put it out there, it has to be, like it has to be usable, it has to be accessible, it has to be something that was always off in the distance, like I couldn't get there because I was hung up. I had limiting beliefs. I had, like I was stuck in thinking that it had to be that way. And so learning this, that it doesn't have to be, and that by being real and vulnerable, that it's actually, in a way, more helpful, I think.
Well, it's also true that, people create art differently and people respond to artists differently. And, like Johnny was just saying, Dave is so different in that way than me and Johnny are. We're very rah rah rah, and we're too rah 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 for a lot of people. That's a turnoff. I listened to your podcast recently, and Amy gave me a link. I said, hey, can you pick an episode that you think I'd really enjoy, and I want to listen to it. And so she sent me one, and she said, they're quiet, they're reserved, they're not like you, and that's a good thing. and I listened to it, and that is such an accurate review. We're boisterous and we're a little obnoxious, and I feel like we really do provide a lot of value and information through the but you have to wade through some gunk to get there, right? And your podcast it's methodical. It's very, like, you need to be quiet and thoughtful and listening, and there's a tremendous amount of value in what you're saying. And for anyone listening, the podcast is basically, it's a great premise. They take copy and
it's called writership.
And make it better. So it's a little like if you've ever listened to Script Notes, John August podcast, they do something called the first 3 pages, where they take 3 pages of a script and just kind of rip it apart a little bit. You guys are very kind, and you don't rip anything apart, but you offer a lot of constructive criticism, and anybody who needs to self-edit their own work, which should be 100% of authors before they send it to the editor, could really benefit from it. And I think that your approach is quiet and thoughtful, and I think that's why it works. And it's so easy to compare yourself to other people and think, I'm not like that person, and then assume that that's a bad thing, and it's never a bad thing, because different is better than better. Sally Hogshead said that. She's this great marketing speaker that Johnny and I saw earlier this year, and her whole message was that different is better than better. Like it's not, you don't have to be new and improved, you have to be different.
Yeah, and I think on the podcast where we're caring for people's intellectual children, and so for me that's like that. I really need to be very careful about that and not say.
Well, all of those people are making themselves vulnerable, right? Like it takes a lot of vulnerability to have your work publicly critiqued, right? I mean, it's hard enough to get the edits from your editor and see all their red lines and all of their suggestions, but to have the editor read those, red marks out loud, that's a different thing, and it does take vulnerability.
So how do you help people that might be more sensitive to criticism, or might take it personally rather than like learn from it and understand it's about the story or the structure, not them as a person or artist?
And how do you do the same for your own writing?
How do I do the same where, Johnny?
No, and I said Dave's question, and how would you do the same for you, applying to you?
Oh, for me. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's approaching it from the perspective that people's written words are their intellectual children, and that it's painful to kind of let them go and be treated that way. So my understanding and what I bring to that is part of it, so that when I talk to people about their stuff, I make sure to tell them what's working. Like this, like you did this really well, and you did this. This was so smart, and these were great instincts here, and those kinds of things, because people don't necessarily know what they're doing well, and and they often focus on the things that they're still struggling with. And so that's one thing. And then just being as honest as possible, but also being gentle about it, not saying like, what the heck were you thinking here? Obviously.
You're stupid!
Like, oh my gosh, I
use
can't
the word
believe.
stupid.
Did they give you, were you drunk when you had the keyboard there? No, but it's just, it's, you know, it's being straightforward. Like, I'm a big proponent of, like, I'd rather know. So if I'm walking around and my skirt is tucked up in my underwear, I want my friend or a random stranger to say, hey, you know, you're walking around and you don't want to do this.
Me too. I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, you know, like, I'd rather know. And I'm assuming that the people who are coming to us would rather know, and I feel a sort of fiduciary duty to them to let them know and not let them walk around with their, you know, with their dangling modifiers hanging out, because that's just, you know, no one wants that. I'm also kind of a grammar nerd, so I just had to slip that in. But it's all about, you know, that it really is. It's that fiduciary duty and being honest with people, but being gentle at the same time. And so if I apply that to myself, then it's about learning as much as I can about the process, and it's about being willing to ask, you know, so how is this? Is this, you know, is this working? And please, like in my email to Amy last night about what we were going to talk about, like I was like, permission or invitation to be brutally honest, because that's what I want. I want to know, and I want to keep doing better and learning. And I don't learn necessarily. It's helpful, like I said, it's helpful to hear what I'm doing well, but it's more helpful, and I think, Dave, you mentioned this maybe yesterday even, or last night, that that you learn more from your mistakes and the things that, you know, people telling you what you didn't do great than you do from just hearing. No one wants sunshine up their bottoms, you know.
Did you find that once you kind of took the step and decided to be publicly vulnerable, that it was easier to do other little things that maybe you had been putting off, or you had been telling yourself you can't do, or for whatever reason other things weren't happening? Did you find that all of a sudden, you know what, I can do that. That's not that big a deal. Yeah.
I did some big asks this week. Like Alyssa and I just launched a new book, and I was asking certain, you know, people.
Nonfiction book?
A nonfiction book, yes. And I was asking people, hey, can you help us out with this? And it's really hard for me to do that. But just the practice of constantly, okay, this is what happened today, and hitting publish. Makes it a little easier, makes it me more willing to take that step.
Okay, hold on a second. So you were asking people to what? Spread the word?
Yeah.
Okay, so do I have to be the one to ask the most obvious question here?
What is a book?
No, why? Yeah, why are you not asking us? What is the book, so that we can spread the word here on the podcast?
Oh, thanks. It's
like, come on, Alyssa, come on, get bold here.
No, I'm Leslie. I know it's easy to mix us up.
I'm sorry.
Oh, what a dumbass.
For everybody.
Get off.
That was a trick. If anybody else
Yeah, way to make her feel important.
Sorry. I do know, I swear.
So it's called Writership Anchor 1, What to Do Before You Write Your Novel.
Writership Anchor 1, What to Do Before You Write Your Novel. There you go. Excellent. So everybody check that out. They really do know what they're doing. Both Alyssa and Leslie here.
So what an asshole.
I know.
Yeah, but actually, Johnny has a good point there, right? Why you are on this kind of mecca to make yourself more bold, and that's been, you know, the big step that you've been trying to take. And you have a personal relationship with us. You could have sent us an email, or at the very least asked Amy an email. Hey, what do you think? So next time, is that what you're going to do?
Next time I'm gonna call you guys up. I don't have your number. But yeah. I mean, like that's the whole process, right? To continue to stretch. Like I'm constantly stepping outside my comfort zone, and so yes, next time that will be a no-brainer, and it probably should have been already, and I'll take my lumps for that. But yeah.
Make sure you mention it as we're closing up today.
I will. Thank you.
So, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm having that vulnerable moment right now, so I'm gonna just take a sip of water.
Okay, you take that sip of water.
You know, whiskey sometimes might help with the vulnerability a little more.
Or wine coolers.
Or wine
All right,
coolers.
so my next question then would be that if you are a more sensitive type and you have this very, you said they're like children, their words are like children, and so you have a nurturing environment to help you with your editor understanding all that stuff. What advice would you give to people who are worried about once their words are out in the world, like they're published, that they worry about a more public reaction where people aren't, they are maybe a little more blunt than you would prefer?
Yeah, I'm gonna take a page from your book about how we have to recognize that it's art and we're creating it, but once we put it out in the world, it's a product, and we have to be comfortable with that. And if we're not comfortable with that, then it's for our own personal use. Essentially, our art, and that's fine, and for lots of people that's adequate. But if you want your intellectual children to grow up and go out into the world and do cool things, then you have to make that shift that it's your art, yes, and it's a product, and not everybody is going to agree with it or like it, and that's okay, because you're finding your own audience and the people who do.
Absolutely. Right, because you're never, ever, ever, ever going to make everybody happy. Like that's it's not reasonable. And the moment you start thinking that is the moment that you kind of box yourself in, and you start you become unwilling to take chances because you know that you're going to fail. And if your expectation is everyone's going to like this thing that I did, and I'm not going to be happy, I can't define success for myself, unless everybody digs it, then you're going to fail 100% of the time, so why even try?
I would also add something that was said by the guest who, if we were to have a contest for who is the guest that is the most opposite of Leslie, that would be, anyone want to guess?
Tucker Max?
Tucker Max. So he actually said when he was on, he talked about the idea of your art being separate from you. And it's very easy to take it personally and say that any criticism that's levied at your art is something that's levied at you, and that's not the case. Like, even if it is very negative, it is not.
I don't know. I have an Amazon reviewer or two that has criticized me directly, me and Sean.
Well, yes, but it is, even if it says it's about you, it's not about you. I'm talking about in a psychological sort of sense. It is about, or more accurately, it's about them. Like, a lot of times it's about them. It's about the reviewer. Especially for Tucker, it's about them a lot of the times, because he pushes a lot of buttons, including Dave's.
I'm gonna leave Tucker a review right now.
We had a little for iterate and optimize. We're doing a little like a sideways podcast, just like we did for Story Shop, right? Where it's just it's there to kind of promote the book ahead of time, and there are interviews that are going to be in the back. And yesterday's was Tucker's, and before we actually started, we had maybe 20 minutes before the interview started that was the Tucker and Dave show. And I so wish we were recording. I just so wish it had been recorded, because it was so funny.
Yeah, I bet. I've listened to his podcast, or the podcast where he's been the guest, and I agree with the assessment that he is kind of the anti-Leslie.
I think he's the anti a lot of people, right?
Just about every way. Like, there's very few ways in which he is probably not different from you.
Yeah, I'm guessing. But it's a big world, and we're all living in it. So.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because when I was growing up, and I wanted to be a writer, I wrote all the time, like, in school, and then when I was out of school, when I was working crappy jobs, I was writing, and I back then it was a lot more difficult to get your work out there, because you had to find a publisher that would actually publish it. Um, and I was afraid to ever do that. And I thought that I had to be a certain way, or I had to be more like my heroes. Like, I had to be more like Stephen King, or more like Clive Barker, or Dean Koontz, or somebody. Um, and it really wasn't until I had a newspaper job, and I was forced to write for a living, like on deadlines all the time, that I grew more comfortable with who I am as a writer and my own weaknesses. And it was the support of, like, the editors and the other reporters at the paper that really helped me find a comfort level that allowed me, when that was all done, to actually write fiction. And I think without the realization that I could be myself and there was value there, and that I didn't have to worry about not being what I thought was the penultimate sort of writer, and that I could just be myself, and there was value there. There was value in my life and my experiences, and I think that without that realization, I still would not be writing. And it really takes it's a hard thing to overcome for people like us. But once we make that mental shift, and we allow ourselves to be vulnerable and put ourselves out there, for good or for bad, it really is a momentum changer. It allows us to get over ourselves, so to speak. So.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so much in there. I feel like that in part on the blog, it's helping me to kind of find my own voice, because so much of the time, like in my former life, before my kids were born, I was a staff attorney for a judge on the Court of Criminal Appeals, and so I was writing a ton of stuff, but it was all in his name, and it was coming out. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. And it was like I didn't agree with the decisions necessarily. I mean, he was a good judge, and I don't want to say anything bad about him. But until you get your own space where you can just be yourself, wow, that's really different. Yeah.
Well, so we were reaching the end of the podcast. I want to make sure that you do mention your book one more time, because this is the drill, right? And this time I'll call you Leslie.
And your website.
And your website and your podcast and all the stuff that people need to know.
Okay, all the stuff people need to know. So I'm the website that Alyssa and I have is called writership.org. So it's like writer plus ship.org, and there are lots of great boat and ship pictures there, so it's really cool. And you can find the book, which is Writership Anchor 1, Dreamtime, What to Do Before You Write Your Novel. You can find that at writership.org/dreamtime, and that's all one word. And my project, which so if you want to follow my adventures along the way, is writership.org/Leslie-Writes.
And your podcast
and the podcast.
is Writership. Yes.
Writership.org/podcast.
Or on iTunes, normal places, right?
Or on iTunes. We're also on Stitcher. Yeah. And if anybody wants to submit, of course, the information is on the website. We're always looking for great people.
And I recommend people do. If you're looking for ways to improve your self-editing, or just, we're all learning always. I don't ever want to be done. Right.
That's it. I'm never gonna get better.
Right. So
nailed it.
I reached the pinnacle.
Right, and you can never improve without outside perspective. Like, that's what makes you better, is other people's, not necessarily other people's opinions. You don't want to just whip in the breeze with you should do this. Well, then I'm going to do that. But together you and Alyssa really do, offer some very constructive advice.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I'm remiss a little bit in that I don't know this off the top of my tongue, but are you still offering author services like editing?
We are. Yes, we do developmental edits and copy editing and proofreading, and we have a Cadillac service. That's what
Pick me up in a Cadillac.
how I've been kind of explaining it. It's not just you get your edits and then you're on your way. It's we really walk you through the process. We have, for developmental edits, we have an hour-long session where we talk about it and shoot ideas back and forth and all of that. And even if it's a copy edit, we make developmental edit suggestions if we see them and all of that. So it's really so that is, I suggest going to writership.org for that.
Are there specific genres you work with more than others or better than others?
It's funny. We've been doing nonfiction and fiction, so we're kind of on both sides there, and we have done a lot more sort of speculative fiction, fantasy, that kind of thing. But I'm also a big fan of mysteries and such, so we're kind of, I know that it's good to narrow down and, pick one thing, but we seem to, the team of us, the two of us together, working together, we have something really special that we bring to whatever we're looking at.
Okay. So we've had several people that recently ask about where do you find a good editor, and writership.org would be one such place.
Yay!
So thanks for joining us, Leslie. It's been great having you on the show. For all you introverted writers who need to get gutsy, Leslie is a good example to follow. And then also for our call to action, I would be remiss if I didn't again mention the Smarter Artist Summit. Maybe that's a good Christmas gift for the writer in your life. And you'll be there, right?
I'll be there. So come talk to me.
Center. There you go. Not speaking, but you'll be there. So
I'll be there. Yeah, but.
All right. So thanks everybody for listening to the Self-Publishing Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks, Leslie.
Thank you.